Hi guys, welcome to our podcast Supposedly Adults, where we are four supposed adults sharing our quote-unquote youthful experiences.
Talking about the most random life topics.
Giving our thoughts that no one cares about.
And just trying to make life suck less.
That's right, so I'm Jensen.
I'm Melody.
This is Calvin.
And this is Lyris.
And today's random question is, bro, was I being ignorant? Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hey, I'm so happy to be able to speak to you again because over the weekend I've been thinking about this for quite a bit and I thought it'd be a good podcast topic to bring up today. So I've been thinking a lot about, because I've been reading different books and things, especially Buddhism books, I've been thinking about the term hindrance of preconceived knowledge. So for you guys that don't understand, the listener that don't really understand, it's just basically the knowledge that you have starting to hold you back and become an obstacle for you for your daily lives and things like that. It's because, knowledge is supposed to be to broaden your horizon, but then when it stops you from being open to other opinions and other evidence, it started to hinder you. The progress that you have. So this topic has been in my mind for a bit. So I don't know, if you guys could chime into this.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought this up because this has always been a topic that really, really hinders me, I guess. Because the thing is, let's say, right? Okay, not trying to be very horoscopy whatnot, but I'm a Taurus, right?
Gosh.
So I'm a Taurus, and the
gosh.
textbook definition of a Taurus is being super stubborn, and I am like the most stubborn person ever. And I do realize that at work especially, I remember there was this incident where I built up this massive Excel model for tracking and scoring and whatnot of what I have to do. And then I'm super proud of it. I spent the entire day building this model and I think it's impeccable. So I sent it to my partner and I told her, I have this and you can use it. And she was like, oh yeah, that's great. And then she went in, started adding columns, changing formulas and whatnot. And I'm like, no. And I got super, super angry. And I feel like that has always been like a big pet peeve of mine because I feel like I need ownership in things. I need to have control over things that I do. So whenever I've created something and you just come in and start changing it, it really bothers me. And I think that is like a very typical situation of hindrance of preconceived knowledge. And I feel like that comes from pride for me personally because I'm super proud of what I've done and I just need that sense of ownership. And I feel like that has really, basically I think that what I did or what I know is the best in terms of how I should approach this work, and you coming in and changing it kind of just bugs me a lot. So I think that is one of the things that I've been aware of and I've been really trying to work on and trying to change.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys have similar situations.
Then in that situation, how did you get out of that, basically? How did you get out of your space of being like, this is my thing, this is what I know, don't come in? How did you...
I mean, I guess because I still have this social thing where I can't just lash out on this partner of mine, so I had to be nice and I'm like, thank you for improving it and whatnot, but secretly I'm just super angry and super pissed, so I couldn't really think straight at the moment. But then later on, after I calmed down, I looked back to the Excel and I realized what she did actually helped. She added she added shortcuts and whatnot that made it a lot more easy to use. And that's why I feel like what she did was actually helpful to the bigger picture, but because I was so blinded by my own knowledge and by my own experience, I kind of just got blinded by that.
Yeah.
So I think I don't have a solution for that except for trying to catch that a lot earlier next time and try to be aware of this potential hindrance so then I could work on it. I think that is my take on it in this situation, I'd say.
That's true. Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of like you're bounded by your own habit and your experiences. Yeah, for sure. I think obviously I think everyone have experienced that, me as well. But then I feel like there's also another type of hindrance of preconceived knowledge, for me it's like actual knowledge, because I feel like when I first learned this term, it's more like about actual like academic knowledge or something that I already think that I know, and that kind of like supposedly like knowledge is supposed to like broaden your mind, broaden how you see things, to see it in different perspectives. But somehow, sometimes learning more things actually makes you more narrow-minded. It makes you more like, like only focus on one thing. And that really, that really happens to me. Cause so I don't know if you've been like a supporter of the podcast. I guess you'll know like I am like really huge like a social justice person, so I'm like a huge feminist. I am like all that millennial crap, but because I studied humanities in uni, so I've studied gender studies, like all those cultural theories about power dynamic, I'm the typical that kind of people. But then I realized that like I actually get very bounded by the things I've learned in uni, that I actually forget what is the heart of social justice, which is helping people and to like make everyone's story heard. So like sometimes I always like alienate people. I think that's why people hate feminists, because we're always on and on about theories, but we forget the context, and there's always a exception to all the cases, right? So for example, like, okay, trigger warning, if we hear a story about a social like sexual abuse or sexual harassment, our first thing would be like, oh, so this is why like women are unprotected, like we have to stand up against whatever, and that's like our go-to, like focusing on the theory. But then we forget that at that moment it's about the person, like it's about, there's like an actual victim there's an actual person who got like her feelings got hurt. So this is something that we should tend to first, instead of the theory and the crazy thing. So that really reminds me of that sometimes in my work.
No, I think that is, for me, I feel like this is even more indirect in the way, like if in terms of knowledge for me, like if let's say somebody comes in and talk to me about the geography, or talk to me about engineering, I'd be like, oh cool, and whatever they say I'd be totally open and accepting, because I know nothing about it, right? But then whenever somebody comes in and talk about developmental theory or evolution or like psychology, then that presses my button, and I feel like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I have to come in and start throwing in like theories and whatnot, and I'm like, you know what, that's not what I learned. That's why it's impossible, because I did I don't know, I went to school for this, right? So I feel like but who am I to say that they don't know something I don't know? You know what I mean? I mean, they know something I don't know, because it's impossible for me to know everything. But once it becomes my territory or my field of knowledge, then I just become super like defensive about things, I feel like.
Exactly. I think that's kind of how I am. Like that reminded me of like specific conversation that I have with my mother, maybe, because I'm very strong opinionated about feminism and all that. But like, so for example, we would be debating about, my mom would be like, I feel like girls should not wear short skirt because like they're asking for it, and I get very angry, and I'd be like, that's not how it is, that's not what feminism, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of alienated her against the theory, because feminism is not just about female empowerment. It's empowering different kinds of like women. So if that's sometimes, okay, like the skirt thing might not be a good example, but sometimes if she feels like, okay, I as a woman, I think my role is to be a good wife, to be a good family, I should not be there to be like, no, you're setting women back, blah blah blah, because that's I'm not empowering them, right? Because I'm just on about the theory instead of the actual people. So I feel like I have to like get out of that theory thing and really to listen to the people and to focus on like different experiences and all that.
Yeah, so right now you two have like gave different examples of this hindrance. So for Melody, she talked about her work experience and how she felt very possessive over her own achievements, and that like not really receptive to the progress of her workmate, I suppose, right? And then I don't know how else to put it. Then Lewis just described
colleagues, Jensen.
Colleagues. Yeah, that was the
it's
word.
very obviously he's the only student left.
That was I was thinking mate. No, okay. Anyway, then Lewis was talking about something along the lines of being defensive about what she studied on her own already reconciled theories. So I do want to ask, related to your example, why do you think we have this need to be very possessive about what we have learned or what we have we are accustomed to that prevents us from being open to other, like even within the same theory, right, or within the same course slash like sociology within that realm, you, because you've studied it, you feel you have this superiority. Sometimes
Yeah.
people just feel that. Sometimes when I'm studying, I feel like I'm the shit when I'm studying, and everything other people are telling me are uh, they're wrong, or they are missing a point that like I
Yeah.
have so wonderfully discovered, or something like that.
Yeah. I think a part of it's like when it becomes your identity, that's when like it really gets, is like, this is my thing, like how dare you come into like, but I don't know.
No, but I totally agree, and then I can relate to it because like because now I'm doing my PhD, and then in my lab I've been seeing a lot of kids coming in, right? I call them kids. They're like 8-9 years younger than me, I guess. So yeah, they're kids. Anyway, so I'm doing this thing, right? So like I've been working and I've been studying, so like naturally I think I know a little bit more than them, right? But then if you have this damn kid doesn't know anything, right? Just come in and challenge me, I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? Even though they may give me good ideas, but I can't let my ego like tolerate
I
that.
feel like
So like if you talk about computer programming, whatever, yeah, these are better. You're good, you do it. But then when you talk about like prosthetics, which is what I do, you come in and try to challenge me. It's like, why are you challenging me? You know what I mean? So it's always like the pride thing that happens, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like I'll be that kid who just asks questions just to challenge, just to like, because I just want to make sure. I don't know. Every time I ask a question, I just want to make sure you are really really strong in your stance, and I just want to see it from a different perspective. But sometimes it can come off very abrasive, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, I really want to delve into it. Rather, I just need to be a bit like a bit more conscious about how I ask it.
Yeah, and I personally think that it's a lot of times that's why when you're debating on some issue, or when you're working on a project, it's good to bring in like somebody from outside of the project, so then they could look at it with a pair of fresh eyes, right? It's the same idea as reading a passage over and over and over again. You can't spot typos anymore, but when you bring in somebody fresh from it who hasn't been staring at it for the longest time, they come in immediately, they'll be able to spot typos and whatnot. And I think that's the same idea as well.
Yeah, no, that's funny you mentioned that because, okay, I want to share a story. This is a story I read like a long, long time ago, and it's been helping me. It's really funny. Well, I think it's funny because it's nerdy. Anyways, so the story is that you can imagine like a big hall, whatever, and there's like old grandma, like typical like not old, like maybe in the 50s, 60s, like Chinese grandma looking.
Is
The
50 years
stereotype,
old
all that,
grandmothers
right?
now?
It's very
Oh,
stereotype.
jeez,
Anyways, so she's somehow like, so this grandma, right? So she's somehow walking into the hall full of like PhDs and physicists, and there's like actually a conference going on. So somehow she just walked in there like without knowing it and just sat down and be very confused, right? So in this conference, everyone, like someone's actually raised a question, and the question was like, okay, if a drop of water is free falling from a very high altitude, would it kill somebody on the ground? So that was the question. Like they're so nerdy, so they're like, oh my god, it's so exciting, like, oh my god, would it actually kill somebody? So like start writing different equations on the wall, start looking up different constants, theories, whatever, and on and on and on for an hour, right? So this grandma just sitting there, and in the midst of all the chaos, she's just sitting there, and all of a sudden she just kind of raised her hand, so everybody stopped and looked at her, and she's just kind of like, oh, have you guys ever walked in the ring before? And that's it. That was the story. So that, I don't know, that story I really like, because it's kind of really illustrate how like we often being bounded by like the knowledge. It's like typical the examples of hindrance of preconceived knowledge, because you're bounded by all the theories, bounded by everything, and just so narrow-minded, like narrow-sighted, that you can't really see anything else. You can't really apply it. So I don't know, it's like, just to Melody's point, to your guys' points, or having a fresh pair of eyes, looking at a thing from a different perspective, which also helps. So yeah, I just thought it was a good story.
So I would like to challenge that story. So a lot of the time, not really like a direct challenge, but just to kind of posit a different way and then see what you guys think. So a lot of the times, or I would say a lot of scientific discoveries were made because there are people who are that quote unquote stubborn in this specific point of view, that they want to prove it, and sometimes they prove it for no reason, such as perhaps, for example, people who are astrologists. Arguably, maybe in the past it would not be that useful to discover the stars. Maybe it's just because people around you, they cannot foretell what are the benefits of your stubbornness within a certain topic. One funny example that I just want to point out was that you were talking about them investigating a rain drop, right? I think I recently watched a YouTube video which talked about how many slaps does it take to cook a chicken, and then this person actually created a machine that just kept slapping the chicken. It was just a really funny YouTube. Okay, so what are your views on this?
I mean,
No.
he's not hindered by that. It's just curiosity. Like, is it hindered?
Exactly.
Like, is he hindered? Like, is he arguing that slapping the chicken 50,000 times is the only way to cook a chicken? And like, screw the microwave, screw the like. What do you use to cook a chicken? Oh gosh. An oven? I guess, I don't know.
Someone's not domesticated.
I mean,
Feminism.
I've only been slapping the chicken, so I'm kind of, I don't know how it works.
The first option is using a microwave. I love it.
Yes.
I know. I'm sorry.
But to Jen's, but this is, like you said, this is the opposite of hindrance, right? Because you're literally thinking
Okay.
outside of the box, like, you know. So I think
Ooh,
that is
yeah.
the because no one ever thought of like how many times you're gonna slap a chicken to cook something. So this is definitely the opposite of it.
Isn't that great? I love how the world just like, yes, there are
I
people
know,
out
and,
there.
and also like why is like, okay, we're like, every time we say slap the chicken, we're all doing the hand motion. Like, why are we doing this? Like, why can't it be?
Because the machine actually was like a wheel, and then it had like a rubber thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like,
Slapping.
okay.
So it was really like, it just kept slapping, then you kept okay, wait, back to that. So
I think this is just one good thing that COVID brought us, is because everybody's stuck at home.
amazing.
Just
Yeah.
Love
find
it.
things
love
to
it.
do.
This is
Yeah.
what the internet's made for. Okay, so on that topic, right? So what is actually hindrance, or how do we like define it? When should we know, okay, this type of thinking is going to present an obstacle to me? When should we realize that?
I think for me, I feel like one story that you made me think of is I remember Lyris would not know, because you were a handheld baby
Oh,
at
cute.
the point. So I was being like a good elder sister.
Why you
and I
just
really
assume
wanna
you're
help
cute?
out with chores and
Humble
stuff.
brag.
You just assume that you're cute.
No, I didn't assume. I know. You know.
Preconceived knowledge.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
No, it is
Okay,
the truth.
wait. So the point is, in older generations, when you're making milk for a baby, you put in, water, and then you put in the milk powder, and then you close the cover and you shake it, right? And then you shake it to make sure, they're all dissolved and all whatnot. So when I was a kid, I was like, oh, let me help make milk for Lyris. So my mom taught me it's actually better to roll it. So instead of shaking it up and down like a bartender would, you kind of just roll it so then it shrivels a little. What's good about it is that it doesn't get so much air into the milk, so then the baby wouldn't burp as much after drinking it, right? So I remember there was one time my sister was, lying there waiting to be fed, and then I was just like, oh my god, let me help make milk. So then I'm like super proud being an elder sister and making milk. And so as I'm doing that motion, my grandma came over and was like, that's not how you do it. And she took the bottle and just started shaking it. I was like, no, that's not how mom said. Mom said you have to do this. And she's like, no, obviously, I've raised so many children. You must do this, right? So I feel like that is the point where we're both very hindered by it. Because obviously my grandma has a lot of experience in taking care of kids. And that's why she felt like this is the only way to do it, and this is the best way to do it because she knows best. So she's been hindered by that knowledge, and she's refusing to take in the consideration of the fact that there might be other ways to do this. And me, instead of that, I am more, played by ignorance, because I feel like I thought that was the only way to do it, and that was what my mom told me to do. So I am also refusing to accept other ways to do it, and I think that it's an example of being hindered by it. So yeah, so I feel like it's very subjective. It's hard to draw the line, but whenever it's hindering you and not allowing you to take in other perspective, I feel like that's
Yeah,
a
or
hindrance.
like it doesn't necessarily have to be like look, now you're hindered, like then you have to stop. It's more like just being aware of it. Like every time you just have to be aware, like for example, when you're arguing with someone, like instead of just shutting it down, like if someone's disagreeing with you, instead of just shutting it down immediately because you're like, oh, I know they're wrong, you can try to like really listen to what they're saying and think about it. And if you still think they're wrong, cool, then you're not hindered by your knowledge, right? Because you tried to listen and you still disagree. So I feel like knowledge is supposed to help you open up to understand more, but if it's only allowing you to see one side, then it's hindering.
Yeah. To tie that all up, actually, I have a quote that I really like, so maybe I'll share that.
Is this your new
It's
thing? Are you
called-
the quote guy now?
You're some. I love it.
Love
So
it.
dad jokes and quote guy. I felt a lot more sophisticated
Yeah.
when I just bring in
Okay.
other people's
Yeah,
word
yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Be like,
That's
dude,
okay,
you know what I mean? So the quote is your assumptions are your windows on the world. Disrupt them off every once in a while, or the light won't come in.
That's so long.
So basically, is if the
It's really long, dude.
No, it makes so much sense. Just imagine like this, the window you're looking through to the world, right? With there's a be all dusty and stuff. You're blocked by everything. Like you won't be able to see anything. You're always just kind of bounded by your own knowledge, by your own stubbornness and ignorance and everything, right? The only way is you be open-minded to actually see and let other knowledge come in, open to different opinions, right? You imagine it. I'm a very
Yeah, I
visual,
feel like a better
imaginary person.
analogy would be, the fact that you are be aware that you're looking through a tinted glass. So let's say if it's, you're looking through a pair of sunglasses, so that everything is kind of tinted in this, kind of reddish orangey, color. And when you don't know, you just feel like that is reality, right? And I think this whole awareness is to be aware that you are looking through a tinted glass and things might not be how you see it.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm just glad that it's not
Yeah,
my own word. I'm just reading off the quote. So don't why are you attacking
you just
me?
challenge what Calvin said?
Wait,
that
is
like
it-
he researched on Google. Like, did you just do that? That was
Is it
so
what-
rude.
Isn't what Melody said similar to something along the lines of don't see the world in your rose tinted glasses, that kind of thing? I think I heard it somewhere, where you just don't see it
Yeah.
as perfect, don't see it within how you want to see it, but like how other people are seeing it as well, right?
Yeah, I guess it's more like accepting that you don't know the truth, I guess. It's kind of
Yeah.
a way to see
Or
it.
like the truth that you know is not the only truth.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
I like the
yeah.
way you put it just now, Lewis, when you said when you are trying to acquire knowledge, you're trying to actively open up your mind instead of trying to close it. I really like that interpretation of it. Yeah. Ooh, I also want to ask, like, this is all like when we're challenging other people's knowledge, that is to assume other people are receptive of their knowledge being challenged, right? So what happens, or how do you deal with people who are super insistent on what they believe are right? Because I just looked up on Quora, and I think one of the answers said that people have their own incentive to believe what they believe.
Yeah.
So like, is it true? I'm still kind of uncertain about that, but tempting to agree.
I think it's definitely true because that's when the pride and the ego comes in because people don't like to be proven wrong. So I think
so
as
just-
you're trying to challenge somebody, you're kind of helping them break that hindrance and break that limitation. But I have also been in situations where I feel like all my efforts are futile in a sense because sometimes, let's say if I
Right.
talk to like a friend or I talk to my mom, for instance, like they're so insistent on things, and no matter how many different perspectives I bring in or how many how I play devil's advocate, they just don't take it. And I feel like sometimes I could get really frustrated, but I think that is also just humanity. I mean, I do that too, so I kind of see where they're coming in.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know whether I know it's not good, but sometimes when I'm having such arguments like with my parents, when I'm trying to inform them about certain issues, mostly very social or cultural issues, and then they don't understand the logic, even though it's very clear to me. Sometimes I do see myself as trying to somewhat impose my values because I look at the internet and I feel like this is the way we should think. This we should be open to other people's either culture or belief or religion, whatever, yada yada yada. And then I take on this role where like I feel my beliefs are better than yours and I try to impose it. It's actually really, really bad and it's kind of toxic attitude to do it, which I also recognize is very frustrating. So yeah, I relate to that as well.
Yeah, I completely relate to you, Jensen, because I think that's like the ironic thing, because like the more leftist whatever wing, you're like, you guys are so like, the idea of like you telling someone that you're very narrow-minded and then
Right.
convincing them to not be narrow-minded,
Right.
that in itself is sort of like
Well, being the
ironic.
dick.
Like it, yeah, no, and it's not just like you kind of are doing the same thing like at some point, like, right? Like, I'm not just saying like all people who are advocating for like a diverse thing is like that, but like because I am super guilty of doing that, right? Because whenever I'm like, why are you stubborn? Why are you so stubborn in your own view? That means that I am very stubborn in my own view because I can't accept that that's their view, right?
Right,
So I
right.
feel like, I think it's like the balance or like just the idea of like accepting that, there is just people just have their own thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that's freeing to be like, it's not your job to convince them. And if you don't convince them, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. Like it doesn't have to be two sides. It's either you convince them, meaning that you're right, or you don't convince them, meaning that you're wrong. It could be like, it's just different things.
Right. I always have to
Yeah.
remind myself that there are other people looking at the world differently than you, which is good, but
Yeah.
also I need to get used to that kind of thinking. Some people also
Yeah,
don't have
and-
that thinking.
And also there are always people who think that you're the narrow-minded.
Yeah, I hate that
Right?
too.
So yeah, but that's how it goes. Like when I always imagine if I see someone like a certain way, I'm like, you are so stupid, you're so narrow-minded. There has to be someone who thinks exactly like that about me.
Right.
So I would just be like, you know what, never mind then.
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like a lot of the times the approach to this discussion plays a huge role too. Because if, let's say, I said A, the person was like, oh yeah, I see what you mean, but I feel like it's B. And if it's like a calm discussion, it's a lot easier for you to take in other people's perspective. But if, let's say, the other person becomes very insistent, even if I'm not actually that insistent on my point, it became, a matter of winning or losing.
It just gets
then,
heated up.
Then
right.
I become a lot more stubborn about or insistent about my point of view. And I feel like this is something that, it's a side point, but I feel like this is something that I've learned from the Netflix documentary Social Dilemma too, because what they're saying essentially is that social media has created different truths for different people. So most of the time you would feel like, why are they so idiotic? Like, why are these people not like saying these kind of stuff, or why are these people believing in these shit? They're so dumb. But then sometimes it's not because they're dumb. They think that we're super dumb too. It's mainly because we're literally living in different worlds in that social media world. That's why I think this is also a good reminder, essentially. Like when you feel like other people are being really dumb, really illogical, really idiotic, maybe you're the one in that side as well. So I think it's just a good reminder and of being aware.
So I guess to wrap it up the podcast, what are the things that will help us, being hindered by or preconceived knowledge, or how to be humble and all that? Like, what are the different things that you guys would do?
For me, I'm always a proponent of this. I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but I personally find that awareness helps everything, but it helps a lot, and it's like a first big step, because just having this conversation alone, it's super helpful, because now I'm aware of why I could be feeling this way. So we come up with, ego and pride. It could also be the knowledge that I know, or it could also be the fact that I'm tunnel visioning on one aspect of things. So being aware of these multiple lenses, it really helps me just introspect. Whenever I'm feeling angry or whenever I'm feeling frustrated about a certain thing, then it's time for me to, think about, am I being affected by ego? Am I being affected by my knowledge? Am I being affected, or maybe I am ignorant? Maybe there are things that I don't know or I'm not aware of. And I think having this consciousness or having this awareness, for me, it's already very helpful in catching these moments.
So for me, I think with the help of you guys as well, I kind of established this idea of hindrance of preconceived notion into two categories for me to identify what type of behavior I will be doing. So like it's usually between the two of like stubbornness versus ignorance. So stubbornness will be when I'm really insistent on what I believe in, and ignorance will be what Melody said when I'm just not aware that other viewpoints exist. And there's a lot of overlap between the two because, when you're prideful, you kind of do, well, like when you have ego, as you guys mentioned, you kind of do a bit of both or a lot of both, whatever you want to do, which is bad. But I think those two mainly will have a similar solution, which is to be really acceptive and acceptive of all the other possible critiques or possible theories out there that can challenge your viewpoint. So first and foremost, always challenging your own preconceived assumptions is definitely a good starting point for people who want to explore this or to be more self-aware of themselves.
Yeah, so to add to that, I think to me, I know my problem is I'm very arrogant. I always have a big ego. Big ego comes a big gut, so that's why.
What?
I don't know. I always have the idea you're like big
thing?
gut, and then you feed in more. That's why I have my ego is so big. You know what I mean? Like,
What?
or is it kind of like dum 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 dum?
What?
I'm telling you, I'm a very visual person.
From
Okay.
Ratatouille. That's why you eat your ego.
Okay.
That's right. That's
Ratatouille
right.
reference.
Okay. Anyways.
Anton Ego.
Oh,
Ratatouille.
what? That's such
anyway.
a far reference. Okay, anyway, keep going.
Come back, guys. Come back.
So my problem is that I think my problem to add to that is that I always have a big ego, and I'm a very arrogant and always So I'm aware of this. So again, being the quote guy, I actually read this quote somewhere. He said that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but is thinking of yourself less. So basically, what I really need to do is don't just always thinking from my perspective, try to think from other people's perspective. And then, it's okay for people to challenge me. I just need to be open-minded and accept it. So, and then I can start to pick and choose, like, whether this makes sense or this doesn't. But instead of just flat out reject it right at the start, I should, listen to it, analyze it, and then process, like, it's good and bad, I think if I be able to do that more, then that should help me, hopefully, to help me from target, I guess, fixing this hindrance of preconceived knowledge thing.
Yeah, and I think in a similar vein, I think just to add one last point, what really helped me is thinking and knowing that things are constantly changing. That really helped me, because when I'm very insistent on a point and I feel like you guys are all being idiots and you don't understand, and I'm having this heated debate with somebody, know that what I believe is true or even absolutely true at this point could change as well in the future. So I feel like this awareness really helped me, because why am I so insistent when my point of view or the truth could change too later on. So I guess that is also something that I'll leave it out there, and if you find it helpful, you can feel free to try it out and apply it. But yeah, I hope we gave you a good debate on this issue now, Calvin. Do you feel more
sounds good
resolved
this is good
in your question?
So this is great. So thank you so much for everybody. So instead of hindering you to let your day goes on, I'll just hang up and talk to you guys later.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.